Okay, hello, happy Friday. I thought today I'd choose a nice, different background, just because I can, because I live in Valencia and it's a beautiful city. Um, I have no idea if that's actually way too noisy. I will find that out later when I try to upload it. In the meantime, today's topic, I thought I'd talk about the things I'm not talking about. And yeah, there are a couple of things that are probably a given. That is things like the world of the rich and famous, because it's all connected to yachts, anything indiscreet about clients, definitely a no-go. You will never hear about that. You won't hear from me speculating about whether, why one or the other yacht did sink, catch fire, or whatever, because that's also things that are probably better left to the experts. Yes, I'm an expert in yachting, but that doesn't make me an expert in some of those technical aspects. So if you were waiting to listen to stories about what's going on the sun deck while nobody's looking, yeah, sorry, you won't hear that from me. So there's the other thing that some people were sometimes asking me to talk about, and that is design. Not my design, but other people's designs. And again, this is something that I just say I don't want to talk about, because every design was probably started with a brief. Somebody writing down, some management, or the client saying, this is what I want. The designer therefore had to do things in a certain way. And yeah, I mean, I'm a human being, I'm a person, so I do have my opinion. I have my likes and dislikes, just like you. And I could just, easily say, yeah, I don't like that particular design, that's a terrible boat. And what on earth were the designers thinking when they designed, X, Y, Z? Yeah, exactly, what on earth were they thinking? They were actually thinking something. And most of the time, they've done a pretty good job within, the parameters that they were given. Other times you might actually think they've done a terrible job. But how would we know? How do we know? We haven't been to all the design meetings. We haven't talked to the clients. We haven't talked to the owner's representatives. We don't know, whether a boat has a certain shape because it's meant to go to certain places, or, all those things are, If we talk about design without knowing all that, then we are just speculating, and we are just throwing in our personal opinion, which is, let's put it that way, just as valid as your personal opinion. So why do you want to hear mine? And there's, through experience and years of training, I would say I have to run around with two opinions. That one is my own one, and one is my professional one, that is maybe a little bit more informed, a little bit more educated. And when it comes especially to, yachts are an individual thing, so that's a very, very different story. But for example, I do have my opinion about certain car design concepts that you see on the internet. Just recently, there were a lot of things that were hotly debated, and it's tempting to just jump into the debate and also voice my opinion. But at other times I say, I really shouldn't, especially since I do have this, I do have my experience, and especially because I know that You know, in most cases, the designers were doing a pretty good job and a pretty tough job to deliver something within a certain brief. You could actually argue that the designers or the design directors might have been totally and utterly wrong, and they had an amazing team that actually did the best out of the brief. But then again, the design directors are not the only ones, you know, that have a say. You know, even yeah, especially the bigger the companies, you know, the more difficult it gets, because yeah, you do have to fit a certain design into a narrative that, you know, might be a good idea or might not be a good idea. Do I give examples? For example, again, you know, it's just random. You know, last year's campaign about Jaguar. Is it a wise move to actually start, you know, kill everything you ever achieved and start with something completely new? Maybe, maybe not. Then just last week, you know, an Audi design following the same route. Do I think that's a wise idea, you know, when actually everybody's already picking on the design, you know, of this design language, and it's actually probably very divisive. I don't know, you know. Personally, yeah, ask me, buy me a beer and I'll tell you, you know, what I personally think about it. But professionally, I can't really answer, and that means, you know, if I voice my opinion on social media, people would actually think it's a professional opinion that might, and they would actually say it's more valuable, or they might actually say, "Hey, that's your opinion, you know, get lost." So I actually, you know, because I have some experience and I have some knowledge, I put myself into hot water if I do that. Plus, of course, you know, there's always the argument, I might actually want to work with some of the people. I mean, not Audi or Jaguar, but when it comes to yachts, I respect the people, I respect the other designers. I think most of them do an incredible job. I would not go to them if I want my boat designed, even if I wouldn't be a designer, because I know they have a certain style or a certain direction, and that's not me. But that doesn't mean they're bad designers. They're just, you know, they just do a different product, and that's about it. That's you know, why I don't really want to talk about anybody else's design, because of the respect that I have for the designers. If that was interesting to you and not overly disappointing because you were hoping that I would, you know, talk about design, then yeah, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. It's always very appreciated, and I'll see you next time.